Hey, this is John from Whatifi, and in this introductory video, I'm going to cover our customer module. Our customer module is a unique subset of events inside here that allow you to advanced customer growth, churn, and transfer calculations. Keep in mind this is an early version of the software, and by the time you're using it, you may see that there's some additional events that are here, including our website visitors, campaigns, and outbound sales. Also, the UI is constantly updating, so by the time you're using the software, some things may have changed, but the core concepts will still be the same. Customers are these buckets that we use to keep track of the number of customers that have grown or churned or transferred in and transferred out of individual cohorts here. So here I'm going to explain an advanced concept of how things work within our software. I have my customer ledger where I'm keeping track of customers. And inside of that, I give you the ability to create, for example, a cohort number 1 and a cohort number 2. But customers really are broken down into these sub-transactions, and we automatically create for you a grown, a churned, a transferred in, and a transferred out sub-ledger system every single time you create a cohort. You can also create nested cohorts. So for example, you could say that I have customers and I want to keep track of my North American customers and the number that are in my starter plan and the number that are in my pro plan. So on this particular level, I can keep track of customers that have grown in each of these plans, or even maybe I have customers that come into my starter plan and then every month a certain percentage are transferring out of my starter plan and into my pro plan. We keep track of all of that movement. So for example, I may have 100 customers in my initial customer cohort here. I may have 20 customers that come in, 12 that leave, 6 that transfer in from another cohort, and 3 that leave to calculate an aggregate of 111. And we do that every single month in perpetuity there. It's also really important because we keep track of these individual customer movements for more advanced calculations. For example, if you have customers that are on a yearly payly plan, you want to be able to know when they actually show up, individual customers, month by month by month, because they shouldn't get invoiced again until their next 1-year sales cycle is initialized. So we do a lot of very advanced calculations underneath the hood and put them into this cohort type structure. So coming back to the software here, in a future version, you will be able to see this sort of nested structure here and be able to more clearly understand the layers to the system. Hopefully that will be implemented relatively soon. So let's take a look at our customers. Here in a customer event, I've created a cohort 1 customer group. There are no customers in it. It's effective July the 1st. This model starts in July, although it's August 1st here right now. And I've put this ledger underneath our customer group. So I've created a bucket called cohort 1, similar to how we had the North American group in my spreadsheet model. Okay. Inside of that, I've also created a second one. So I've created a cohort 1A. Cohort 1A happens to be nested inside of cohort 1. Right? And here I've set an initial balance of 100 customers on July 1st. This is an important distinction. Think of this like a bank account balance. If today is August the 1st and I have $100, I haven't added $100 today. I happen to have $100 today. It's that same sort of piece here too, as we have 100 customers in this cohort. They may have been added in any given month, any given day in previous months. This is just setting that initial balance. I'm doing the same thing here for cohort 1B. I'm setting up 200 initial customers. Really important note here, for example, I'm actually setting that initialization date before even the beginning of my scenario. In future versions of the software will allow you to integrate in with third-party tools that are automatically updating your customer account month by month by month. Okay? So let's take a look at what that means. If I go into, first let's look into our nesting structure here. You can see that I have my customers, and inside that I have my cohort, and here I have cohort 1A and 1B. They're nested inside that top cohort. Okay? If I go and look at this on a graph, it's really important to talk about monthly versus cumulatively. You'll see in my cohort 1A in a monthly view, there's actually no data here. It's because I have not physically adding customers there. I have a cumulative balance. There are my 100 customers that we have cumulatively, but on a monthly basis, there haven't been actually any transactions there. Same thing if I look at cohort 1B, there are none here, but cumulatively there are 200 customers in the system, even though they were initialized back in May. Important distinction, this will become more obvious as you play with the software more. Okay. So now what have I done next? I've added in a unit cost. So unit cost allows us to create things like products here, and I can say that I have a product number 1, it's $200 a month. You can even add in cost of goods sold here if you want to. There, it's $200 a month, right? So if I look at that particular product, I can then use that in a revenue event to multiply customers times the product. So here I pre-built a revenue calculation. I want to take all of the customers I have in cohort 1A and I want to multiply them by that product price every single month. And I want to take the result of that and I want to put it into an income account under main income, and I created one here called revenue 1, and that's where I'm allocating that revenue. So if I now go and look at my main income here, and let's look at this monthly, you're seeing that every month I have $20,000 worth of revenue. I'm multiplying my customers in cohort 1A, those 100 customers, times that product price to generate my monthly revenue, $20,000 a month, which is great. Now let's create a revenue calculation for our second cohort. And there's something really important you'll sort of see here. So first, let's kind of go in. I'm going to create a new product. I'm going to call this product 2. And here, we're going to leave it as a one-time calculation. Okay, so we're going to say this is $1,000. So every single time someone signs up, we charge them $1,000. Now remember, we had initialized our balance of the number of customers that we had, so they weren't getting added, they just happened to be there. So you're actually going to see there's no calculation that's actually going to show up here. Let's take this one step further so you'll be able to see that. If I now then go and create my revenue 2 bucket, I'm going to take my number of customers in cohort 1B, and I'm going to multiply them by my one-time product price, and I'm going to allocate any calculations to revenue 2. I'm going to update this one. Okay? Update that calculation. So now if I go and pull up my revenue, I had my revenue for cohort 1A, but revenue for cohort 1B is still 0. It's because even though I have customers in that cohort, I'm calculating only when they get added. They got added back in May. There are no new customers getting added here, so I'm not able to realize this revenue for revenue 2 at this particular stage. Okay? We're going to solve that by adding in some growth events. A growth event allows us to pick a customer group. So let's pick that 1B as a starter, right? We're going to call this 1B growth. And I'm going to say that we are going to have a 20% monthly growth on this particular cohort. So if I now add this into my model, right, and let this calculate, big difference we see here now is if I select cohort 1B and we look at our monthly, we are now actually adding additional customers in every single month, month over month over month. And those are new customers that are getting added in. Let's talk about how we can sort of see that. If I actually kind of go now into my customers and my cohort in my 1B, right, I have access to my grown customers as well. So here now I can see how many customers have been added in every single month here in cohort B that are then get multiplied by our product and our revenue to now give us revenue in product number 2. There's a lot of steps there, so I'm going to kind of go through that again. We initialized some customers, then we grew some customers. Because those customers were new customers and we had a calculation that was looking for new customers and multiplying them by a one-time cost, we now actually have revenue for those. We can do the same thing here, customer growth for cohort 1A. So now I'm picking our customers and our customers in 1A. And here we say now that we want to have maybe 15% growth here, monthly kind of growth. We can also choose what date we actually want that growth calculation to start. So maybe for some reason we don't want to see a growth change until August. Maybe that's when we're starting some of our campaigns. I'm going to update this particular calculation, and I'm going to recalculate. And now I can look at my customers in cohort B, cumulative for example, and you'll see that we are seeing, 1A, you're seeing that there's no growth, no growth, no growth, and then on that date that we talked about, we're now starting to see growth. Okay? So what have we done? We've added customer growth to our two different cohorts there, and that is automatically creating calculations downstream for revenue. Now let's add in churn, right? Because the reality is some customers are going to churn out of our model. So let's do 1A churn here. And here I'm going to pick our customers, our cohort 1A, and we're going to set up like a 3% monthly churn. All right. We do have some advanced settings in our calculation software here right now. This is part of something we'll go into a future version of things, but this has to do with when customers are initialized and when we're actually running the calculations. So here I'm adding in 3% monthly churn. I'm going to do a recalculation here. And now if I look at my cohort 1A, and if I bring up my ledger system, you'll see in cohort 1A, I now actually have both grown and churned. So I'm adding and losing customers in a given month. So I can look at my grown customers and I can look at my churn customers all at the same time, which are aggregating together to be my total number of customers in cohort 1A. So that's now factoring into my calculations. And lastly, we can do something like customer transfer. This is not the best example for it, but say that I have my customer transfer, I can do something like what happens if starting in November, I have customers that are in my 1A cohort that start transferring to my customer 1B cohort, and that every given month, the monthly, that 10% of those customers switch from cohort 1A to cohort 1B. So I'm going to let that calculation run here right now. And now, if I start looking at cohort 1A and cohort 1B, I have customers that are coming in and out of each of those cohorts back and forth. We can see that again by going down into our ledger system here. And now in my 1A cohort, I am seeing transferred in and transferred out as well. We're transferring customers out of cohort 1A, and those customers, the exact same customers, are going into cohort 1B at the same time. And I can bring up that data. We can see cohort 1A and cohort 1B. And if I want to look at this on a monthly basis, you'll see that those are exactly the same numbers. We are moving customers out of cohort 1A at the bottom here, and they are transferring into cohort 1B. This is a fairly advanced concept. It takes a little bit of time to wrap your head around it, but once you do, you'll see how powerful this is for keeping track of individual customers and individual scenarios. In this example, we've added customer cohorts, growth, churn, and transfer. We've multiplied those customer cohort counts by the pricing in the unit cost event to calculate revenue. In future versions of this, we will cover our campaign event and our outbound sales, and you'll see other ways that we can drive new customers into the top of our customer funnel. Thanks.